You said something about the voting system. And I was like, that sounds
You get that bar off the top of
Comfy chairs, great voting system.
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're gonna get going here. City of Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee, Koback will hybrid meeting for September 26, 2024 is called to order at 1:02 p.m. As a reminder, throughout the meeting, please announce your name before making comments. This is for accessibility and helps identify those who are talking. We'll begin with a roll call from the committee members, encouraging each member to provide a self-description. I'll go first. This is Carl Burnett, current chair of Koback. Use he, him pronouns. I'm here in the council chambers today wearing a black shirt and glasses. And next to me is Amanda.
Hi, everyone. This is Amanda Hamer. I am sitting in council chambers next to Cassandra. Oh my God, why did I just forget your
Carl,
Carl? Sorry. Oh my
no
God.
problem.
And I am wearing reading glasses and have short red hair and wearing a gray sweater.
Thanks. Let's go to committee members online. Whatever order you want to pipe up in is fine.
This is Aaron Rivers. I use he, him pronouns. I'm attending online today. I have salt and pepper hair and I'm wearing a green fleece.
Hi, this is Whitney Bennett. I'm attending online today. I use she, her pronouns. I have light hair. I'm wearing a black shirt today.
Hello, this is Derek Hoffbauer. I am online as well. He, him pronouns. I'm wearing a collared shirt, a blue sweater, and glasses today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Corey Sparks. I use she, her pronouns. I'm online today. My hair's kind of dark blonde and it's in a little messy bun. And I also have a baby with me because I had this baby recently. So she might pop up a little bit when I'm on camera, but I'll be off camera a lot because she's, oh my gosh, she just spit up. So anyway, that's why I'll be off camera sometimes. But hi.
Corey, for the record, can we have another name there?
Oh yes, this is Josephine, or Josie, or Joey, or any kind of Joe type variation.
Great, welcome, Josephine.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that announcement. What happened? Corey, you have
I just introduced my baby and she just spit up a lot.
Oh.
So.
Aw. Wow, nice.
Go ahead, Liz.
Oh, am I introducing myself? Sorry, I was a couple minutes late. This is Liz Deether Martin. I'm wearing an orangey pink shirt and I'm attending online and I go by she, her.
Hi, this is Stephanie Utzman. I'm online today, she, her pronouns, and I am wearing a white dress and I have light brown curly hair and I wear glasses.
Liz Woodfin here. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman.
Welcome, Liz. So it looks like we're missing Nicholas and John. John's online. John,
this is John. I am calling in today because I am sick and I didn't want to spread it to everybody. So I am a deep, sultry, disembodied voice.
Appreciate that. Keeping your germs to yourself. Thank you. And thanks for calling in, John. All right. We will move next to the land acknowledgement. Any volunteers to read that today? Thanks, Amanda. Yep, here you go.
This is Amanda. We would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land known as Bend, Oregon, north of the Columbia River is the original homeland of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. The Confederated Tribes ceded this land in the Treaty of 1855 while retaining regular and customary hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. The Wana Lama, or Warm Springs, Wasco, Wasco, and Northern Paiute people inhabited this area in certain seasonal times that clearly established their presence. It is also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Solila Falls trading grounds. This trade route expanded the impact of the commerce between tribal nations. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. It is our hope that guests continue to honor and care for this land.
Thanks, Amanda. Cassandra, could I ask you to share with the committee what you shared with us yesterday about the land acknowledgement?
Yes, thank you, Carl. Carl and John and myself have previously had conversations about the importance of, and this is an equity initiative as well, but pairing a land acknowledgement with action and activity. And that's something that comes from online best practices in terms of tribes, but defers to regional tribes. And so for the Warm Springs tribe, we are looking to potentially seek guidance from City Council moving forward and how best to either read the land acknowledgement or shift to a different type of understanding of a land acknowledgement paired with action. So more to come on that, but that's just a little preview of information that I wanted to share. Thanks, Carl.
Thanks. We're going to move on to the next item, which is the approval of the COBAC minutes from both the June and July monthly meetings. We were off in August. That's why we're not approving minutes from August, because there aren't any. Lisa sent those out yesterday, I believe, and on Monday. Thank you, Lisa. And I'm wondering if anybody has any corrections or comments about the June and July meeting minutes. Hearing no corrections, this is a motion to, or is there a motion to approve the June and July draft meeting minutes?
This is Amanda. I motion to approve.
Thanks, Amanda. Is there a second?
This is Liz Woodfin. I second.
Great. All those in favor of approving the June and July minutes, you can say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Hi, this is Corey.
Thanks, Corey. Hearing only yays and seeing hands, the motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to a public comment period. We have time for up to 2 public comments of up to 2 minutes each. Do we have any members of the public who aren't on the agenda who would like to speak? Okay. Well, that was quick. We'll move on to which one's supposed to be next on here, Lisa? Oh, the improving accessibility and affordable housing update that's from both of you? Great. Okay, the floor is yours. You've got 25 minutes. Please start with an introduction. Thanks.
Okay, I'm Scott Nordquist with Bend Redmond Habitat for Humanity.
And I'm Grace Wager. I'm the Vice President of Construction with Bend Redmond Habitat for Humanity.
And before we jump in, let me just say thank you for the invitation. It's exciting to be here. I am often presenting and interacting with AHAC, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. Our executive director and CEO is on HREC, on the Human Rights and Equity Commission. And as everyone probably knows, there's a lot of overlap in the housing world between equity and accessibility. So I'm excited to share some updates with you all on what we are working on, and hopefully get some feedback and thoughts on, what we can do moving forward. So let's go ahead and jump into the next slide, please, Cassandra. I'm going to start with just a little overview on what Bend Redmond Habitat for Humanity does, so folks have a better understanding. We find there's often a lot of misconceptions in the community about what Habitat does. So I'll start with a little overview and some project specific stuff of how a new accessible project came about for us. And then Grace is going to go into some of the more technical and construction aspects for you. So we were founded in 1989. In the habitat world, they are called affiliates. So we are one of over 1,100 nationwide. And here locally, there's also the Sisters Habitat and the Sun River Lapine Habitat. And each of us have similarities, but we operate independently and work to meet the needs of our communities. We have served over 225 households with affordable home ownership. I think we're up to 234, last I counted. And we're a pretty dynamic and unique organization. We have a restore, so the restore supports a lot of our operational costs. We are very much a volunteer-driven organization, so we rely on a lot of community support and community engagement for our success. So we have volunteer opportunities both on our construction sites and in the restore. And then we are a home builder and a developer. So many years ago, I would say we were just kind of a home builder, and that we got build ready lots and we would build a couple homes a year. In 2017, we absorbed the Redmond Habitat to become Bend Redmond. And we've seen an increasing need for affordable home ownership in the community. So we've grown significantly to try to meet that need. So we're up to building about 20 homes a year from about 4 or 5 homes previously. And with that, as you can imagine, land is quite expensive and hard to find in Bend and in Central Oregon. So instead of getting build-ready lots, we're often getting raw land. And so Grace works to develop the infrastructure, and there's a lot more that goes into developing raw land for home ownership. But we do some larger developments and a lot of infill here within the city. And this photo on the right, these are our recently completed 27th Street townhomes. These are 12 duplex style townhomes down in Southeast Bend that we just finished in March and held a dedication for. Next slide, please, Cassandra. A little more on our program. So we're most known for our home ownership program. First thing, we do not give the homes away. Homes are purchased. So our typical buyers, like on that 27th Street development, it's folks who earn about $50,000 a year. So it's people who are making $20, $25 an hour, working in healthcare, working in retail, working for the school district. They can qualify for a mortgage. Average mortgage is about $170,000, $175,000. Problem is that doesn't get you anything in Bend. So we're building homes, and then we essentially find funding and find resources to make those homes affordable, and we sell them at a price that is affordable for those buyers so that they have a mortgage that they can afford. So that last development, their average payment was about $1,350 a month is what that comes down to as a more relevant number for folks. We don't require any kind of down payment. We do have a shared equity model, so it's a little different than open market home ownership. Folks, as a way to understand that, a homeowner will have about $100,000 in equity after being in their home for 12 years. So we let them know it can be when they purchase a home with us, it can be a forever home, or it can be a stepping stone where they have that affordable mortgage, they build up equity, and then they can afford a home on the open market. And we're kind of unique in that Habitat nationwide has kind of these guiding principles of how we qualify folks. And so we base it on need, ability to pay, and willingness to partner. So we look, I would say, a little more holistically instead of only looking at your financial picture. We have a little bit broader criteria that we look at for qualifying our homeowners. Yeah.
Is the, I can't, I'm not thinking, my brain's not working. AMI, is that, what does that stand for monthly?
Thank you. So in the home ownership world, well, AMI is area median income. In the affordable home ownership world, most opportunities are capped at 80% of the area median income. I don't remember exactly because it changes year to year, but for a family of 4, it's between 75 and 80,000. So it changes based on household size, and then it will change year to year. So the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development updates those guidelines every year, and they're based on the incomes per county. So for Deschutes County, we have a set area median income that they base it off of.
So, and that's what you, what's the financial qualification then? Because I'm trying to connect those two things.
For the buyer,
Yeah.
so right here I say typically, so most of our buyers are earning between 50 to 80% of the area median income. So in terms of actual gross income, that's probably anywhere from 40,000 to 80,000, depending on household size. They have to have typically a minimum credit score of around 620, debt to income ratio under 10%. So pretty similar things that most lenders would need for a pre-qualification, and we use third-party lending. So they're getting qualified and they're getting a third-party mortgage, a traditional 30-year mortgage.
And you guys do that?
We help qualify, but the mortgages are run through third-party lending. So most of our homes are run through what's called the Oregon Residential Bond Program. The state has a cool program to give below market interest rates. So we could also do a normal 30-year loan. The state has a program that gives an interest rate that's a little more competitive and a little lower. That helps. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super helpful.
Oh, it looks like we have another question online. Liz?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, this is Liz Woodfin. So I have a question about, are those homes land lease? So are homeowners having to pay like a land lease fee, and how does that work if you do?
Great question, Liz. Thank you. So most, not all, but most of our homes are on a land lease. So under that model, Habitat, it's like if you've heard the term community land trust or land lease, it's similar to those terms. So Habitat retains ownership of the land and the homeowner owns the home. It's also similar to what a lot of folks think of with condos. So we own the land, the homeowner owns the home, and then that property is deed restricted to be permanently affordable. So future resales also have to be income qualified. So many years ago, our Habitat homes, those were essentially a windfall for that one homeowner. That one homeowner got an affordable home, and then when they sold it, that was it. These ones, because they're on a land lease and permanently affordable, it is, as I mentioned, this homeowner still gets equity, but there's a longer benefit for the community in that those will be affordable homeownership opportunities over multiple generations. So they will be resold to future buyers who are, you know, earning under that 80% of the area median income threshold. And Liz, we do have different builders structure their fees differently. We do have land lease fees. We try to avoid HOAs if we can. Sometimes there's an HOA fee. But we factor all of those fees into what a household can afford. So we'll base their payments off of their principal, their interest, all of their fees wrapped up. So that what I have up there is that $13.50 a month. That includes about a $25 annual land lease fee as well.
Yeah, this is Liz again. I have a follow-up question. And now I have to remember what it is. You might get to another question of mine later when we talk about building, but I was wondering about like the accessibility within the home and the build and how that looks like. But my other question is does a resident or a owner who purchases a home, do they have to stay in the home for a certain period of time before they can resell?
If I could just jump in, sorry, this is Cassandra Scott. Sorry to interrupt. We do have a period of 10 minutes following the Scott and Grace presentation. If COBAC members want to share it then, or I defer to you all how you'd like to interact with questions. Sorry that we didn't address that at the outset. And Liz, to your question to Scott.
Yeah, I don't mind answering questions as we go. I think for the construction build specific one, let's hold off until Grace covers some of that and see if that might answer some questions. But oh geez, now I forgot what her question was. Oh yeah, there's no minimum requirement for staying in the home. So someone could buy the home and sell it next year. They wouldn't get much equity out of that, but there would be no punishment for resale.
Thanks, Scott. Please continue.
Did Barb have one or are we holding off? Okay. Hi, Barb. Okay, so real quick, I'll give a little intro and then let Grace take it over. So we have a project that is under construction right now. We call it Wilson Ave. This was land that was donated by Evergreen Housing Development Group. They are the group developing that area in between essentially Ponderosa Park and Larkspur Park, southeast of 15th and Wilson. When the new roundabout went in, there was a parcel that was, the previous home had to be removed. Evergreen Housing Development Group donated the land to us. We took it as an opportunity to do something different, do something unique. And about that same time, City of Bend came out with its new middle income housing pilot program. That program also in the application gave bonus points for proposals that incorporated accessibility into the proposal. So there wasn't a financial bonus, but it was in the scoring criteria, it was a bonus point. And well, I'll leave it there. Grace, do you want to jump in?
Sure, yes. Can everybody online hear me okay? Great. Yeah, so having donated land presented a really unique opportunity for us. As Scott mentioned, land in Central Oregon is very expensive. And because of this, we are building higher density. So we're doing a lot of attached units. We're trying to maximize density and livability on a lot. So we don't often build single family homes. This allowed us to consider doing accessible designs because we had the room to do it. We don't often do that. So our typical 2-bedroom home is around 900 square feet. This home is 1,300 square feet. So we took the opportunity to learn about different accessibility codes. I was very inspired by the Wynn Watts Commons in Gresham. I'd seen a video, they did a universal design, and I was very impressed by the spectrum of needs that were addressed in their design. And I wasn't very familiar before with ADA or UD code. And it seemed to me like they were addressing a full array of needs that exist in our community. So that is why we chose to go with the universal design for this home. And I think we can go to the next slide. I think that's my cue for the next one. Yes. So to learn more about it, we are partnering with the Universal Design Project, UD Project is what they call themselves. And they have outlined the Universal Design Code in a very comprehensive way, and they offer support, which was very important for us to be able to talk things through, understand certain elements. And they've just been incredibly helpful on this project. And this Wilson pilot project has been valuable in understanding the limitations as well as the opportunities in implementing Universal Design Code. So we've learned that there's really small, easy changes we can make to almost all of our builds, like blocking for grab bars. But then there's also some really cost prohibitive changes that we would have to balance in our pro formas. And that's kind of what I wanted to get into today a little bit and hopefully get some feedback as well. Next slide, please. So this is the footprint of our Wilson home here. And I'm just kind of walk through sort of and stop me if you have questions along the way. So you'll notice that this has a laundry and mud room. This was a requirement of the Universal Design Code. That is not something standard in our homes nor in affordable housing in general. It is cost prohibitive to add that additional square footage. And then there's a laundry sink required in there too. So a little bit of additional plumbing. Each room also, I guess it doesn't show it on this slide, but there's a radii for mobility devices to turn around without having to do a 3-point turn. And bathroom 2 is our fully accessible bathroom. So that has a roll-in shower, roll-under sink. Bathroom 1, to sort of save costs, we didn't make that fully accessible, but there will be grab bar locations. There's a flex space required as well. That is not typical for our homes, what was required by the UD code. Let's see, am I missing anything that I wrote on my notes here? I kind of went rogue.
There's a couple more footprints for you to talk through.
Oh, great, perfect. Thank you. Yes, okay, so here's where you can see all of the elements of our bathrooms here. I will note as well sort of the differences that I discovered between universal design and the ADA code. The Universal Design Code requires a roll-in trench drain shower, which I learned that the trench drain itself is about $400 more than a center drain. So there's these very minute, well, in my privilege, what seemed minute, that I learned the impact of them, but then also obviously the associated cost. Next slide, please. And the kitchen is the most expensive area for, I think, ADA or Universal Design Code, and especially for Universal Design because they do require a wall-mounted side swing oven, which itself costs $3,000, over $3,000. You'll see the microwave is next to the oven there, and underneath both of those is a pull-out shelf for a working area. There's a roll-under induction cooktop. The vent above that will have controls mounted on the countertop. The sink is also roll under, and the garbage disposal will also have those controls mounted under that sink area. And there's several heights of countertops, and this was actually an area that was different between the Universal Design and ADA code. Universal Design required both standard height countertops as well as variable heights, so you can go higher and lower actually in the UD code, whereas I believe the ADA code requires 34-inch standard. I might be wrong on that number. I see a hand, Aaron.
Yeah, I was wondering what the requirement is for the oven, if that's really expensive for an oven.
Yeah, it's very expensive. And the ADA code doesn't require that wall mount side swing. They do allow a traditional bottom swing oven, and it seems as though that's a safety consideration. So not having to reach across a hot oven door, I think was the intention behind it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Not for like wheelchairs or anything. It just,
Sorry, can you repeat that? I had a hard time hearing you.
I thought maybe it's for like wheelchair accessibility or something where why it has to swing out instead of down, but we bought a new stove last year and that's like 5 times the cost of the one we bought.
Yes, and we also often get gift in kind appliances, so we don't usually spend any money on our stove or oven because we get that through a gifts in kind program. So that additional cost was quite heavy for us.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pardon me, this is Stephanie. And sorry to interrupt, but I just kind of wanted to address the question concerning the oven. And I think it's both, one, it's the safety risk of reaching across a hot oven door, but it is also for wheelchair access. Because if you're in a chair, you don't have access. You can't really, you don't have the ability to make that reach. So if you're in a chair, you can swing that door open and then get right up to the oven opening to pull things in or out, pull things out and put things in. So it's both. It is really, I think is absolutely essential for somebody who's a chair user. And then one other question, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but on the previous slide, when you were showing the bathrooms, and the bathroom 2 was the accessible bathroom, the bathroom 1 was not the accessible bathroom. And I just was wondering why, because the bathroom 1 is attached to the master unit. Now, I would assume that the homeowner most likely would be using the master bedroom, and it would seem like, I just don't know why. It's as an adult or as a parent who's looking for future homes for my child and hoping for home ownership for him and independent living. It would seem that having an accessible bathroom, if he's owning the home, being the one that's most accessible to him if he's in the master bedroom. So it's just something to consider. I mean, I can see if you have bathroom 2 is the accessible one, it's accessible to the whole house, including guests. And you're not traipsing people through your master bedroom. So anyway, it's just a comment. Just something to think about for future builds.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I appreciate your clarification about the wheelchair access and the feedback as well that is critical. That's what we're partially here for today, to learn what is really critical. And I will tell you, we went back and forth a lot about the bathrooms and which one to make fully accessible. And I guess at the end of the day, we didn't want to assume that the person that needed the accessible room was also going to be the owner and be in the primary room. It could be anybody in the family, we decided, and that the commonly accessible bathroom would be accessible to everybody in the home. That's ultimately why we landed on that, but definitely open to feedback on how we could improve that in the future. So this is kind of the main things I wanted to show you today, and then kind of discuss the cost implications with those as well. And as I mentioned before, the increase in size, so having to increase the size by around 400 square feet, which I'll tell you was still really tight. I think there's a lot more we could have done even if we would have added 200 more square feet. So that, as I mentioned, could reduce density in larger developments, which at the end of the day really is our project penciling or not penciling. And so there's a funding that is needed in order to encourage developers to build accessible homes. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So we are anticipating, it's not finished yet, to spend over $30,000 increase from our normal home prices for this home. Luckily, we did get some funding for the city for the middle income that is helping to cover this. And with that, kind of analyzing how we can replicate this in the future, because that was really the intention of this pilot program, is replicating it in future home designs and replicating this exact home design as well. I started sort of comparing the ADA and UD code side by side and really trying to engineer cost efficiency between the two codes. I kind of landed on some of the things with the ADA code that they don't require that the UD code did, and I think vice versa. But I really want to make sure that we understand the implications of that, because there is a balance that will have to be had. Either we need more funding, so if you can find that for us, we would love that. But there will have to be a balance between going fully accessible with the UD, losing that density, having to spend $30,000 more in a home, or are there things that we can do that meet the ADA code? I still want to prioritize accessibility, but that will cost us less and therefore in the long run enable us to get more accessible units on the ground, which is our goal at the end of the day. Yeah, I think that's kind of the end of what I had for you here, and I would love to have more time for questions.
Thank you, Grace and Scott. This is Carl. Before we proceed, can I get a clarification from either Cassandra or Lisa about our schedule? I see we have this item for improving accessibility in affordable housing. Is that what we're doing right now, or is that something different?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now, Carl. This is
Okay.
Cassandra. So we have 10 minutes of time for questions, answers, input from the General COBAC Committee.
So we had 25 minutes for that, plus 15 minutes for Habitat for Humanity, plus 10 minutes for,
So the
accessibility.
25 minutes is encompassed by the 10 and the 15-minute presentation.
okay, got it. Thank you. And then I don't see Melissa here today. She's online. Okay,
And that's the
great.
next presentation.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So we have until 1:40, right? So that just gives us a couple more minutes. I have a quick question, which is, well, maybe it's not quick. Did you look at accessible standards or practices in other countries when considering this? Just because thinking about Europe or other places, they tend to build denser homes on smaller footprints where like, even if you're building an accessible home, like 1,400 square feet would be crazy large.
I didn't, and that's a great idea. I will have to do that. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's out there, but I bet in Europe there are some other practices that we could learn from. Other questions?
Derek?
Yeah, hi. This is Derek Hoppauer, Quebec member online. Just a quick question. Great presentation. Are you factoring in with the new locations? I'm thinking like transportation access, particularly with like Ben's fixed route system for people with disabilities to be able to use accessible transportation services. And I work for Cascades East Transit, so framing this in a transportation context, I'm just curious as to where these houses are. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for that question. So when I'm analyzing land, I'm always looking at transportation and nearby resources. That's incredibly important for accessibility as well as for lower income households to have easy access to resources. It is limited by the land that is available within our budget. And so unfortunately, we can't always afford land in those locations.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your response.
Derek, this is Scott Nordquist again. And just for this project specifically, it is right on the roundabout at 15th and Wilson. So I won't comment on specific accessibility, but that's where the project is.
Yeah, and we actually have a route that goes right next to that. So it's Route 9, 30-minute route. So perfect. Good job on your selection. Thank you.
Great. Maybe time for one more before we move on.
And Carl, I think we have a few minutes of flexibility in case members have
Okay.
additional questions. I'm happy to pull back a little bit from my manager update. If I could just ask a question, Grace and Scott, thank you so much for being here and all the information, and thanks to opening up to COBAC for feedback. Could you talk a little bit about potentially universal design and the flex and laundry room? I'm really fascinated to know what the rationale in the UD code is for having those requirements.
Yeah. So the intention of the UD code is to be, I'm not going to get the exact quote right, but accessible to the most amount of people without any changes. And so there were things, the laundry room and flex space both serve as potential resting locations between bedroom and main living areas, where if somebody was using a mobility device where they needed to sit for a second and then continue on to the rest of the home, they could do that in the flex area. The flex area in particular was really interesting to me because the intention of it is to serve whatever need that household has. And so it could be a quiet study area, maybe if you work from home or study from home for whatever reason, or it could be, like I said, a resting area. So there was a lot of intentions behind having that flex space. The dedicated mudroom really was, I think, about size mostly, for being able to get a mobility device in front of your washer and dryer, as well as to be able to have space to fold laundry in without having to, haul a basket away from that room. And the sink, I think the intention behind that too was to be able to do everything there all in one room. Does that answer your question?
This is Amanda. I have a question. Are there, and I don't know, I'd really love to read the Universal Design Code, but when you think about universal design in education is usually where my head's at. But I'm wondering about disabilities outside of physical disabilities. So are those, what kinds of considerations, what kinds of, we're talking like the flex room, I'm imagining like could be a sensory area or something.
Exactly, yes. So there's a lot in the code about lighting intensity and different shades of lighting, which might be better for someone that has sensory overload or things like that. So that's what I really liked about the UD code, is it seemed to address it. I think it was very good at addressing physical disabilities as well as other disabilities, which I did not see in the ADA code. And I'm not thinking on the top of my head very well right now about all of the factors in these homes that would, but the lighting is, I think, the most significant one.
This is Scott again. Grace, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's specific things around like acoustics and sound, and a lot of that insulation we already do generally just because we trend more towards net zero style building. I think some automatic lighting upon entering a room, things around outdoor lighting, and then even paint color for contrast.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
Good job remembering all of those.
And this is Amanda again. Are those all in the UD code?
Yes.
Like to have the paint, like there's a parameter.
Yes, there has to be a degree of contrast for door handles and the door color to easily distinguish, as well as between rooms as well, so that you can distinguish when you're entering a different room.
Thanks. This isn't a question, but just a couple comments, I guess. This is Carl. First of all, I've lived in it. I've used a wheelchair for my whole life, and I've never lived in a space that has this kind of design or these kinds of elements, or an oven that opens sideways, or an oven that's wall mounted. And what a dream! What a lucky person who gets to, occupy that space and have that opportunity. And I'm glad that you guys are thinking about ways to create more of those, more housing that's built to that style. And then the other thing I was thinking about is, as you were talking about all the different features of your universal design, I was saying to myself, but not everybody's going to need all of those elements. And then I had to remind myself that's kind of the point, right? Is that these are features that are universally beneficial, even to a person who doesn't have a disability potentially, right? And that's why it's called universal design and not like ultra accessible design or something like that, right? And it seems like the real like pie in the sky way forward to me is for these kinds of standards to seep into just practices for building in general, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to just touch on Bear Creek before closing?
Yes. So we were awarded some surplus land from the city of Bend. That's on Bear Creek. It's just by the bus depot there and kind of bordering the cemetery. It's not yet a parcel, so can't give you an address or anything. We will be building 8 units there, and we have dedicated 2 of them to be universally accessible, or actually I should just say accessible. And this is where we are comparing the codes and deciding, so that it is a small lot, they are small footprints. And so we have had a couple of design rounds where we're like trying to squeeze everything from the UD code in, and it's really hard. And so that's why we started bringing in the ADA code and trying to make those decisions. I don't feel like I'm necessarily the right person to make those calls because I'm not in a I don't need a mobility device. So I also would love feedback. And if you have anywhere to point us or any resources you can give us as well, so that we can continue to build accessible units. And yes, Carl.
I was wondering, have you given any thought to making those decisions after the homeowners have been decided upon, right? So what I'm thinking of, and I know this could be tricky, but is that you make a plan for the unit you're going to build and maybe the square footage and the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and so on, and then you leave the specifics to be sort of figured out by the needs of the person who's going to occupy the space. Is that even feasible?
The way that our sort of, because we're building larger developments, the timeline doesn't really line up for that. The way that we're developing this Bear Creek lot, for example, we're developing it as a multi-unit development, which means that we are doing the site plan with land use and the building sort of simultaneously. So the architectural design is happening really early in the process, far before we would have selected families. Our families, and this is more getting into Scott's arena, but our families are in our program, I think optimally like 12 to 18 months, which just isn't enough time to design and then actually build the homes. So.
I'm just thinking about some of the things that you mentioned, which are very changeable things, like paint colors and the specific furnishings that you have in certain rooms, and whether there are grab bars or not, and those kinds of things, which are like not permanent characteristics of the house, right?
Yeah, and I think those were the lessons we took away too. Like there are some really simple things that don't really cost any more money, like the paint colors and like adding blocking for grab bars that we could probably implement on every single one of our builds. But it's really the oven, the shower. The shower also, I didn't mention, is wider than a standard shower. So designing that in. Those are the areas where, yeah, the cost considerations come into play and the size constraints as well.
Thanks. Barb, do you still have a question online?
Thank you so much, Carl. I appreciate it. This is such an interesting, fascinating discussion. It seemed to me like perhaps that home had more exterior doors than I would see. Is that part of universal design, or is that just specific to this one?
Yes, good catch. I didn't mention that. So off of the primary bedroom, the UD design does require an exterior door. So that's what you see there. And that was the only additional door to the exterior that we did add.
Got it. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Carl.
Sure thing. Okay, well, thank you, Grace and Scott, for being here and sharing that great presentation with us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Come back anytime. We're going to move on to Melissa Camania and our accessible housing coordinator and her 2024 analysis of impediments to fair housing that she sent out to us recently. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And Grace and Scott, I'm glad that you're staying for this conversation because some of what you shared piggybacks what I'm about to talk about. And Kobach, thank you for having me. Cassandra shared the analysis of impediments to fair housing with you last week. It is 96 pages, so I really don't expect that you have read it all and have a bunch of questions. But if you remember, I came to you earlier this year with a summary of what we were thinking our recommendations and findings would be. And we didn't have the document available for your review. So here is a list of the impediments that we identified, 5 basic impediments, and each bullet really is a recommendation. And these are recommendations and not what we call plans, because some of these recommendations are for things that the city doesn't have necessarily the ability to change on its own, such as lending practices in the mortgage industry. However, the recommendation is to raise awareness or to partner with organizations who do have that ability to make change. But really, what I wanted to talk to you about today is impediment number 3. And I'm beginning to create my work plan for what we call the AI, which I now realize has very different meaning in today's world. So not AI technology, but the analysis of impediments. Impediment number 3 is regarding limited housing and infrastructure that creates barriers for persons with disabilities. That is the impediment that we identified, and we have 3 recommendations to address this. And while you're reading that on the screen, why I'm here today is, as I mentioned, I'm starting to create my work plan, and I want to have a discussion with you. I invite you to be a part of this with me. And I'm curious, as I'm developing the work plan, if any of COBAC is interested in working with the housing team and addressing these bullet points, and what would that collaboration look like? So I'm going to stop sharing unless you want the impediments to stay on the screen. I'd love to see faces. So I'm going to stop sharing unless you stop me from stopping. Okay, so I'd love to have a conversation. As one of those bullets was directly in relation to what Grace and Scott just shared, is that we've heard that it does cost more money to build accessibly, and we'd like to explore the possibilities of additional funding to help offset that cost. And so Grace and Scott, your presentation was a great roll-up for me. But COBAC, I'd like to hear from you if at all anyone is interested in working with myself and the housing team it's a 4-year document, 4-year plan. Change doesn't happen overnight, but we're ready to start now.
This is Melissa, what kind of help are you looking for?
So it could be professional input. It could be assisting on work plans. It could be attending meetings. And I'll be clear that what I'll put my screen back up because I don't want to limit anybody to impediment number 3. I'm going to put my screen back up because if you, for example, are an expert in fair housing in general, I'm open to collaboration, professional input, curiosity, even for any of these impediments. And Cassandra, I can't see if hands are raised, so if anyone, someone else can call on hands for me, please.
Liz, if you're speaking, you're muted.
I'm not speaking, actually. I was waiting for questions. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Just wanted to have a conversation over partnership, and I value, and the housing department values COBAC so much because a lot of the impediments that were identified were through our partnership over the last 1.5 years. So it only makes sense that we invite you to be a part of the solutions.
Yeah.
Carl, could I ask? Do you mind? Melissa, can I ask a question? Thank you so much. So they're on number 3, just to make sure I understand what you're saying, is that, the fact that some lots do not have sidewalks, are not accessed by sidewalk. That's what you're talking about when you're saying that limited infrastructure limits the opportunity for accessible housing.
Yes, so the idea is if you can't access the area, you can't live there, or it's more difficult to live there. And the city has done quite a bit of work in the recent years regarding accessibility with roundabouts, but I know from the activity that we went to together, Barb, where we were blindfolded and navigating roundabouts, that there are still opportunities for more improvements, and that's what some of that work will help us explore and identify.
Excellent. Because citywide housing affordability is affected by infrastructure of all types, whether sewer is available, whether water is available. But in this specific impediment 3, we really are talking about transportation infrastructure, I'm guessing.
Correct. It's maybe it's sidewalk limitations,
Yeah.
or roundabout, or things like that, or maybe incomplete public access with transportation.
Thank you. Thanks, Carl.
Sure.
So options for collaboration would be that I am invited to come back and provide updates, or if anyone is interested or feels that they have expertise in any of these areas, it could be a collaboration with our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, where we invite COBAC members to come and provide presentation or perspectives or expertise. As we get further into the work plan, there's potential for some type of work group activities where knowledge can be shared.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Melissa, thank you so much for being here and creating this document that is a wealth of information. I was just in awe going through it yesterday, and I was surprised by some of the data, and also not so surprised, but concerned still of the data. And I would love to collaborate and participate in a focus group, or however you need, on a personal level, professional level, and as a member of COBAG.
Thank you. I have written your name down. Thank you so much. Any other questions or any other interested persons or ideas for how to link arms in this?
Hi, this is Corey. I'm online. Apologies if anybody had their hands raised first. But thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate you're reaching out for participation. I'm wondering if any of the participation are paid opportunities, especially around professional experience and things like that.
That's a great question. I had not considered that to date, but I am going to make a note of that. I will find out.
Yeah, that it's really helpful, especially for a very long-term project, or helping with things that are somebody's professional, that they have professional experience with, or just giving general sharing experiences, or doing things like helping with work plans, like you mentioned. It can be difficult for folks to get away, and it would be nice for folks in particular, not to necessarily have to volunteer in order for folks to get those perspectives. So that's all I was wanting to ask or flag. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that. Certainly, I understand that can reduce barriers to participating. So I'll find out. I'll find out the options for that.
Melissa, this is Amanda. I'd be happy to help in whatever way.
Great.
Personally, professionally, or through COBAC or through COBAC. So yeah.
Thank you. Great.
And this is Carl. I would be interested in helping out too. I don't have any professional expertise in this area, but I'm definitely interested. As long as it's not too great of a time commitment, I think it could be cool to be involved with.
Great. I'm very grateful for that. What I'll do then, if you haven't read the document, again, 96 pages, it's not a small thing. So take the next month or two to go through it, and then I'll reach back out to the folks that have provided their information and COBAC in general, and we'll bring back some updates and some tasks.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Liz Woodman?
Yes, this is Liz Woodfin again. Melissa, is this document shareable? Can I share this with colleagues?
Absolutely. It is shareable and it lives on the City of Bend website. I'll make sure Cassandra has the link because it is a large PDF, but it's accessible on our website as well.
That's great. I think I perhaps perhaps the Neighbor Impact Board of Directors would be interested in reviewing this analysis and maybe see if any of the analysis or data applies to our strategic plan and what that looks like. So
great idea. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa.
All right. I'd like to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is strategic plan subgroup updates. We've got about 5 minutes per subgroup for this. I think I will take the first one, the improving transportation and infrastructure group, which I'm co-leading, and I don't have any updates for the committee. We didn't meet during our off time. We tried to, but I didn't make it to that meeting, so I don't have any updates. Is there anybody else from that subgroup that wants to mention anything?
Carl, this is Cassandra. If there are no updates, I just based on what we shared yesterday during the leadership team meeting, it's just a conversation about a thank you to Derek for support. But I think maybe a quick win for this group regarding improving transportation and infrastructure came in the query from a community member whose son was disabled and wished to attend a showing at the Tower Theater, but was unsure as to how to get transportation in off hours. Derek was really helpful and provided some input and feedback, which brings up a great point, and I would like to have that potentially mulled over by this subgroup, but then the larger body as a whole is the development of a quick, easy kind of guide that shows both times and potential partnerships with different organizations and transportation vendors and offerings that we have within the city, just so we could share that out really easily with the individual who questioned what they can do. And then that way it's not a big push to ask for, myself and Lisa trying to coordinate with Derek. I think it would just be a wonderful win and an easy way to demonstrate an access to improving transportation and infrastructure. Again, it's just a suggestion, but again, thank you, Derek, for your assistance in providing that information that we shared with community.
Yeah, thanks, Cassandra. I think that's not a bad idea. I don't think it improves our transportation situation, but it might improve access to transportation. So you're right. I think that could be an easy win. What about the creating an accessible community group? Do we have any updates from those folks? I'm guessing a lot of the groups may not have met during the summer, and that's fine.
Oh, this is Cassandra. Liz, would you be comfortable sharing a little bit about what you shared with the group of just potentially an idea for an accessible community event and a little bit more detail about the email that you shared? Sorry, Liz Dieter Martin. And that is absolutely all right if you don't want to. Okay. Just for full transparency, Liz had shared an email with a movie that highlights and features a disabled individual living in housing, which is on theme and on point today's conversation. Again, thank you, Grace and Scott, for such a great presentation and conversation. But potentially partnering with Open Space Studios and some of the other groups in town that help to advocate for folks with disabilities to create an event and watch a movie together. So more to come, but this potentially could be a really nice idea for synergy between community and also different programming that each of the community groups offer.
Sounds good. We can move on to the third subgroup, creating a culture of accessibility within the city of Bend. Any updates from you three?
Hi, this is Stephanie. So we did meet and we do have a few updates. We had, as you guys probably remember, we were having some difficulty getting a hold of Trauma Informed Oregon because our original goal was to have the City of Bend's employees participate in trauma informed practices training. And I think that our original goal was to have 1/3 of the city staff trained by, I think each quarter or maybe even by the end of 2024. Well, we're not even near that because we were hitting some roadblocks. So we had modified our goals at our last meeting that we had. I think it was in July or maybe beginning of August. So that continuing, we felt strongly that we wanted to keep the trauma informed practices as our primary goal, because I'd be hard pressed to find a member of our community who didn't experience some form of trauma. And it's important for us to realize that trauma looks differently for everybody. And so what one person may consider to be traumatic may not be considered traumatic by the other. And so you should not judge. And so what we thought was that we would start out by having COBAC members participate in the online training. It's the kind of their flagship training program. It consists of, I think, let me look at my notes. Oops. About an hour and a quarter, hour and a half total time commitment. It's 4 different modules, and at the end of each module, you get a certificate of completion. Or I guess at the end of the final maybe training program, you get the certificate of completion. So what we were hoping is that by the end of this year, COBAC members would participate and complete these trainings. And then we would, as our subgroup, we would participate in one of the city's lunch and learns to present trauma-informed practices trainings to the group to gauge receptiveness. And then by the end of the fiscal year of 2025, our hope was that all new hires for the city of Bend would participate in trauma-informed trainings. So start with the new hires. Now, since creating those goals, though, Liz was able to reach out to Jill Bauer, who is a trainer. She's a certified trauma-informed practices trainer. And I'm sorry, I can try to go faster. I'm mumbling. I just realized we are short on time, and I don't want to. You only allocated 5 minutes, so I don't want to go beyond that. But Jill was very receptive to. She does in-person training. She does web-based trainings, and so we thought that what we might do is invite her to maybe add her to one of our COBAC agendas to explain trauma-informed practices and the intent of the trainings to COBAC and anybody else who attends, members of our community who attend our meetings to learn more about it. And then she also put together a proposal for training all City of Bend employees. Now, we're in the process of reviewing the proposal. I have reviewed it. We haven't met as a subgroup yet after receiving that proposal to talk about it because we just got the proposal on Monday. But I have developed a list of questions for her. Her goals or what she outlined in her proposal were pretty ambitious. And so I am thinking that we need to kind of scale that back a little bit with her. But I have some follow-up questions, and I think one of the most important key pieces of information is just how many City of Bend employees are there, because that will kind of help us navigate our next steps and set out our long-term goals for creating this culture of accessibility. And so does anybody have any questions, or anybody else in our subgroup want to add to something? Maybe I forgot something, or elaborate on this.
Stephanie, this is Amanda. No, that's awesome. I hadn't heard that update since I wasn't able to go to the Friday meeting, so that's great. Yeah. Nice work.
Yeah, it was really good to meet with Jill. She's very enthusiastic. She is very willing to come to one of our groups, our COBAC meetings, and talk about trauma-informed practices and the importance of it in not only how we interact with our community and engage with community members, but also our fellow coworkers, our peers, our families, because all of us are looking at our work and situations that we are confronted with through our own lens based on our own personal experiences. And so oftentimes that, that could definitely affect how you communicate with individuals, and it could have negative impacts when it's not necessarily meant that way, but you're looking at things through a certain lens and they're looking at things through a certain lens. And so just that compassion and that empathy and learning how to navigate those challenges in any certain, situation that might arise. So that's why I really would like to see if there is a future meeting that we could invite Jill to talk about trauma-informed practices. And I don't know, does anybody else on COBAC have any particular, specific questions or thoughts?
That sounds like a good way forward. Thank you for sharing those updates, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I guess if nothing else, if nobody has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. My dog just found its squeaky toy, so I don't want to have some squeaks in the background. But thank you for your time. And we'll meet as a subgroup again soon.
Thank you. Encourage all the subgroups to schedule time to meet over the coming month. And we'll move on to the next item, which is our roundtable discussion. We just have 5 minutes allocated for that, so I won't call on everybody or anything like that. But does anyone have any updates about accessibility or news or personal updates that they want to share with the committee?
Yeah, hi everyone, Derek Hoffbauer, online. Just wanted to give a shout out to the team, Kovac, for putting some information about, I know it was busy with welcoming week, but for the September 12th Joint Committee on Transportation public hearing that was held at OSU Cascades. It was a really good turnout. We had a lot of people come out and testify on behalf of some improved and more accessible transit services. And we had Charlene, she's blind, and she was advocating, talking about the CET's Dial a Ride program and how that's really beneficial for her to get around. And then, we had Nancy Stevens come and testify as well. So, and Jordan Oldie, he's in a wheelchair, and he uses, the public transportation system every day. So it was just really exciting, and the committee was really happy with the turnout. I spoke to some legislators after that event. So just thanks to the team, Cassandra, for pushing out the information, encouraging members of the community to come, and we actually had some City of Bend materials as well that were dropped off to us that we could distribute. So it was just a great time, and just appreciate that effort to get folks there and involved. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Derek. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on to our accessibility managers update. Cassandra.
Thank you, Carl. This is Cassandra. For the sake of time, I will speed through this. We'll try to keep it under 5 minutes, but the overview is here of some of the items that we'll discuss. City Fest, if we can all rewind back in time. First, hope everyone had a very lovely month off for the summer break and recharging. I know we've started the school year again, but just it is not lost on me the impact that you each have in our community. And like Derek is saying, I think that we have a really fantastic group of advocates and constantly looking for ways to input and keep accessibility at the top of list. And so thank you all for the work that you do. Amanda, like you're featured on this lovely image here. I hope you enjoy it. I think it brings such joy. And I think in reflecting on the work that COBAC does, I think that we infuse joy and advocacy in the places that we go, and we do it with a philosophy of calling people in and getting information like Grace and Scott today. I think that was fantastic, and the input that you all have for that is phenomenal, and looking for ways to have more of that interconnected nature in our work is fantastic. So just a moment of that colorful joy. Amanda, wanted to thank you and Derek for showing up to take some time to interact with folks. Lindsay was also in attendance. Thank you for all of your work in interacting with the public. We were querying folks about places that they feel safe in, where they feel included, where they feel like they belong in community. So something to ponder for each of us here, where are locations specifically, and we're talking about accessibility lens, that we feel are accessible and open and inclusive for people with disabilities. So, and that can come in physical spaces and also in virtual spaces, and also in everything from lights to scent to music to the front door, right? It's in a lot of ways and in different things. And I think that also interacts with the work that we did with Leadership Bend in encouraging local businesses to be more inclusive of folks with disabilities. So thanks, Amanda and Derek, John and Liz. Thank you so much for stopping by the booth. I know everybody is very busy, and this happened during the middle of August, which is also just a time for travel and break. City Fest was great. Here are a couple of other photos. Here's one of the questions about what businesses in Bend are doing a good job of creating inclusive spaces for the community. And then we also had members from our Human Rights and Equity Commission join us. And you can see one of them here with a lovely piece of art that was from one of the vendors, which I believe has found a home with one of our equity department teams. It was beautiful. It was great advertising. It enticed us. And the news, I think, actually didn't film the equity department's booth, but stayed inside the booth filming through that beautiful little prism of art. So we'll say we were part of it, but not really. So moving on, Welcoming Week. Welcoming Week is still in full swing. We have 3 events remaining, including one this evening, which is Community Belonging Conversation. If you're interested in that, you can go to the City of Bend's website. You do need to register for this particular event, which will be taking place at OSU Cascades this evening. There is also an event tomorrow happening at OSU Outdoor Movie Night for Encanto. It is a family movie open to the public. Bring your friends and family. It's going to be a great time. And then we are being closed out on Saturday with a Confidence film screening. So if anyone would still like to participate in any of the 3 events remaining, it's a great time to be welcoming and inclusive to all members of our community. It's a wonderful effort that the equity team and communications team in City of Bend help to facilitate in conjunction with partners. I will also highlight that just in a few days, if you can believe it, it is October, and it will be our Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The City of Bend will be accepting a proclamation that was brought to us by Saving Grace, which is an organization in our community that works to advocate on behalf of victim survivors who have been victims of domestic violence or intimate partner violence. So they'll be here on October 2nd accepting the proclamation. If you're interested in that, that'll be at 7 o'clock next Wednesday, October 2nd. They also have distributed, which I will email to all of us in the group, Domestic Violence Awareness Month events, which range in everything from art walks to art shows to different types of bingo. The equity department, some of the staff is planning to attend, also encouraging City of Bend staff to attend, and also COBAC and HREC members, you're more than welcome to. So I will send that out, look for an email for that. And again, that'll begin, I'm highlighting it at this point as we will be pretty far on in the month during our next COBAC meeting. So there's that. We are also in the midst of the September 15th to October 15th Hispanic Heritage Month, or Latino, Latina, Latinx Heritage Month that is happening. Andres Portela, I know, attended our Central Oregon Latino Fest that happened in Madras last weekend and had great things to say about it, and was a beautiful celebration of Latino culture and all of the things that we see in Central Oregon. So there are other activities that are happening throughout the month, which again is a staggered month of the 15th to the 15th, and we are in the middle of that. So keep an eye out for other opportunities and activities that you can participate in. And with that, I know that Lisa Larson had shared. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing with the group. Andres received a phone call from Nancy's husband, and Nancy Allen is a former member of COBAC, and we learned of her passing back in August. We wanted to take a moment to read the obituary into public record to honor the time that Nancy was a member of our committee, and also just blown away by the amount of service that Nancy completed and was a part of during her time on Earth. And again, another great reminder of, time is fleeting. And then also, like, it is not lost on us how tremendous it is that you all spend your time advocating and being a part of COBAC. So with that, I will read the obituary. Lisa will follow up with a list of accomplishments, and we'll also have a quote from Corey from an email, which I think was really poignant and beautiful as their time on COBAC was overlapping. So Nancy was dedicated to helping people. After getting her licensed vocational nurse training at Our Lady of Fatima Hospital School of Practical Nursing in North Providence, Rhode Island, she worked 1 year at the hospital, then joined the Peace Corps. After intense training at Norman, Oklahoma, and Puerto Rico, she served 2 years in Bolivia, South America. She served with a group known as Bolivia One. After the Peace Corps, she worked again in Providence doing home nursing. She moved to San Francisco, California in 1965, where she worked in the Longshoreman Hospital. While in Kelsey, Nancy opened her own home nursing business, joined the Garden Valley Volunteer Fire Department, getting EMT qualified, and was the captain of the rescue squad from May 1981 to December 1998. Later, she served on the Garden Valley Fire Board of Directors. While a volunteer, she joined the California Rescue Paramedic Association and was on the board of directors for 2 years. She worked as a nurse at City of Folsom Prison in Folsom, California, and then traveling nurse performing required tests and vaccination for EMS workers. She was a Red Cross volunteer teaching first aid and CPR classes and assigned to disasters. While on the Garden Valley Board of Directors, she served on the El Dorado Local Agency Formation. They moved to Bend, Oregon in 2006, and she became a certified ombudsman from 2007 to 2016 and received the President's Volunteer Service Award Bronze in 2015. With all this, she was dedicated to her family, helping friends, and to St. James Catholic Church in Georgetown, California. Nancy enjoyed many holidays, camping, and fishing trips with family, extended family, and friends. She disliked sewing, but loved to cook new things, particularly for holidays. She loved tending to her houseplants. And in addition, she was a former COBAC member for many years. Corey had, you all probably saw this, but wanted to read this into public record. During the time Nancy and I worked together on COBAC, she taught me an incredible amount about accessibility and leadership. My time on the committee overlapped with the time Nancy served as chair. Watching her lead the committee on various initiatives was key to preparing me to serve as vice chair and later chair and other civic activities I took part in subsequent years. More than that, as you can tell from Lisa's email outlining some of Nancy's efforts and achievements, she was dedicated to making Bend an accessible city. She no doubt played a part in the city becoming more livable for all its residents over the years. So truly beautiful words from Corey. And with that reference to Lisa's email, Lisa, I turn it to you to read that onto the record.
Nancy was this wonderful spitfire of a woman. Nancy served as vice chair and then chair. Just before she left, or just served a chair just before she left. She served 2 terms totaling 6 years. Nancy always signed up in support and attended all COBAC events. With her great insight and the ability to bring so much to the table, Nancy was able to add so much to the City of Bend's accessibility program. She took part of many letters of support as well as signed a few, and went out to the city manager, Bend Parks and Rec, code enforcement, and other departments. Here are some of the letters of support and recommendation. Sidewalk Improvement Financial Fund. Enhanced snow removal enforcement in 7 areas that included business corridors, near schools, school routes, zones, and major transportation stops. Cascade East Ride Center, application to Central Oregon Ride to Wellness Collaborative. Bend Parks and Rec District Local Government Grant application to Shedland Park. ADA accessibility notice of font size recommendation on publications. Safety routes to schools, letter of support. ODOT Highway 20 Greenwood Project, proposed sidewalk exemption, and a letter to the editor about the importance of snow and ice removal for our underserved community.
Thank you, Lisa. So tremendous amount of advocacy work in our community. And we'll just take a moment just to reflect on Nancy's contributions and her time on COBAC, and then I'll wrap up. I'll also share that Andres Partella and his partner Angelina made a beautiful card of folks who are in chambers currently would like to sign before they leave. If you are online and would like to put some words in, feel free to email me and I'm happy to transcribe them and put them in there, and we will share the card and send that over with thanks and also a copy of kind of our COBAC moment of remembrance of Nancy with her husband. With that, 2 other quick updates. One, we will be recruiting soon for additional COBAC members. That recruitment will begin on October 1st. I will email you all of the information if you'd like to share that out with your community members. That'd be fantastic. Friends, family, colleagues, coworkers, anyone interested or has passion for accessibility in our community, it'd be wonderful to have additional members join us. And the other piece of information is we did hear from Rachel Colton from Bend Parks and Rec with an exciting update that she shared with Carl, John, and myself, is that the COBAC letter that we sent on behalf of support of Bend Parks and Rec for accessible Miller's Landing funding, they are sufficiently moving along. They had positive response and they are getting funding as a result. And she wrote to thank us for our continued support and said she would let us know if there were other ways that COBAC could either write letters of support or continue that process as they look for complete and total funding. But just as a great update for all of you that is happening. With that, Carl, that concludes my update. Appreciate each of you, and back to you.
Thanks. And in addition to recruiting new members, we have coming up pretty soon nominations for new leadership of the committee, right? I think our terms expire after the October meeting.
That's correct. And I'll send an email that has those term dates. And for folks who are interested in leadership opportunities of either chair or vice chair, please start mulling that over. And thanks for bringing that up, Carl. Really appreciate it. And also deeply appreciative of both you and John and the leadership you've demonstrated over the past year. And can you believe it's been a year almost? Also shocking.
I can.
I feel it keenly, Carl. I don't know how to take that response.
Great. Well, let's see. We have any agenda setting items for October? I know we're running out of time and I want to make sure we get time for Councilor Campbell to give an update if she has one as well. Any agenda items for next month?
Do we want to try and put this is Amanda, do we want to try and put the trauma-informed presentation or on the agenda for next month, or?
Yeah, I think that would be great if we could.
Yes, let's the 4 of us meet offline and we can talk potential next steps and definitely looking at getting that as a part of the agenda setting. Sounds great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's turn it over to Councilor Barb Campbell. Do you have any updates for us today?
Thank you, Carl. I'll be super quick and just say thank you so much for that moving tribute. I also had the privilege of serving with Nancy, and what a wonderful just example to our community. And not to you all are following in our steps, and I appreciate everyone. One thing I'm thinking about, and this might be a question for Cassandra, is we've got, so in particular, that Hawthorne Bridge. Right now, design seems to be very much how it's going to connect at the two ends, and that very much has to do with accessibility. So maybe Cassandra maybe we can just make sure that we've got the right voices on that. This is going to be a huge investment for our community, and I don't want us to be finding that we have conflicts between users after it's built. And then the other thing I would mention is, because somebody else mentioned Jordan Olney, right now Highway 20 sidewalks are being installed, new sidewalks, which for me has been, forever. I have been wanting, and I will let you know that the reason why those sidewalks are happening at this moment is because some people from around the state, including Jordan in our own city, frankly, they sued ODOT. ODOT was not doing the job it should have. And as a result of that lawsuit, ODOT had to replace all of the curb ramps there along Highway 20 from 3rd Street to Pilot Butte. And then I was able to come in with City Council to say that even though Highway 20 is actually an ODOT facility, that we all believed the city needed to go ahead and invest the money in those sidewalks. So to me, this, it's just kind of a very interesting and complicated story that is resulting in such an improved network for people that use that corridor, including Jordan. I will be thrilled when the day comes that Jordan is not in the street with cars in a painted bicycle lane, but he is actually able to use the sidewalks along Highway 20. And that is what is happening right now. So just, just a shout out for advocacy. Some days it can seem just thankless and tireless, but things do change, things do get better. And thanks to folks like Nancy and all of you who are with us. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks for that update, Barb. I'm very excited about those improvements too. I also live in that area, and I've been hearing from ODOT for years that those improvements were coming, and I didn't realize that it took a lawsuit to actually make that happen. Crazy. Okay, any other COBAC business?
This is Amanda. I just want to say really quick that October is an awareness month for a lot of populations. It happens to be the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. It is Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So you'll see all the football players wearing pink. And so just to throw all that out there, I'm sure there's more too. So
thanks for that. With no further, the City of Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee hybrid meeting for September 26th, 2024 is adjourned at 2:35 p.m. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.